Museums are guardians of cultural heritage in Europe. The demanding processes of European integration call for museums to rethink their social role in multicultural societies. How can they function as a socio-cultural resource that creates new perspectives for intercultural dialogue?
The main challenge of the EMEE project aims at reinterpreting museum objects from a European perspective. It is involving us as museum professionals and as citizens at the same time, because it invites us to reinterpret our common cultural heritage and connect it to the present-day problems.
The museums are the keepers of the cultural heritage in Europe and of the multifaceted and often multidirectional memories linked up to it. So the museums can function as a social space where the diversity of memories and identities in multicultural societies can be reflected against the backdrop of history. But the question is, in which direction should the museums evolve in the 21st century?
The main challenge for European institutions will be how we deal with history. It can be a burden, it can be an advantage.
The EMEE project is a 4-year field experiment to find answers to this question. It is based on the innovative concept change of perspective that includes various strategies. First, through a multi-layered reinterpretation of local museum objects. Change of perspective serves as a school of perception to help visitors see the local in the European and the European in the local. Second, change of perspective consists of creative approaches to activate different visitor groups. It invites them to co-construct the many meanings of cultural heritage in a trans-regional and cross-cultural European way. And third, change of perspective strengthens interdisciplinary and international cooperations of museums. This encourages comparative perspectives which go beyond conventional regional and national views. The motto of the EMEE project is One Object, Many Visions, EuroVisions. Since 2012, the project has been run by an interdisciplinary consortium in 8 European countries. It is led by the Chair of History Didactics at the University of Augsburg in Germany. 3 national museums, 3 universities, a scenography studio and an art group work on the project. Each of the EMEE partners has established their own widespread network. These networks include museums, universities, galleries, cultural heritage institutions, and so on.
The EMEE network is a strong backbone for the EMEE project. It allows us to put into action EMEE's theoretical ideas and concepts, and it also is crucial for EMEE's sustainability later on.
This project gives the museums opportunities to make objects talk through different perspectives. And that is very important because a museum is a place where different points of view have to be shared.
The EMEE toolkits aim to mediate between theory and practice. They offer creative and innovative concepts that are in support of modernization and internationalization of museum work.
The EMEE toolkits cover different topics. Toolkit 1 introduces 8 approaches for reinterpreting museum objects from a trans-regional European perspective. Toolkit 2 helps to implement the concept of museums as social arenas. Toolkit 3 focuses on strategies to make museums attractive to all types of visitors, especially non-visitors. Toolkit 4 is about staging objects. Toolkit 5 deals with the topics of the social web and interaction in museums. Toolkit 6 gathers concrete examples of how the toolkits can be applied to museum objects.
We kind of produced the toolkit that shows smaller museums what they can actually do to get more interactive, to get more participative and the like.
Each toolkit was accompanied by a workshop. The concept of change of perspective was also conveyed in a study module designed specifically for university seminars. All can be downloaded for free on the project's website. The EMEE project initiated an international competition for young designers and scenographers, the Young Scenographers Contest.
The core idea of the EMEE Young Scenographers Contest was the concept change of perspective. That means to look at museum objects from a new and exciting point of view, to reinterpret them from a regional, national and European perspective, and to reveal their complex diversity of meanings, and then finally to turn them into a multi-perspective experience by means of scenography.
And we also wanted to see how historic objects are perceived by younger generations today. And this automatically including and embracing the European aspect, because I think we cannot be local or regional anymore, and most of the objects had been traded somehow from somewhere in some times.
It was an international competition, so students from university all over Europe took part, and it was also a transdisciplinary competition. That means that the students came from different creative disciplines like architecture, scenography, stage design, communication design.
The 11 most striking submissions were compiled in an exhibition. It traveled through 7 European countries in the framework of the EMEE EuroVision Labs. The exhibition's last station was the European Parliament's Visitor Centre in Brussels. The theoretical groundwork of EMEE was put into practice in the EMEE EuroVision Labs. Various museums in 7 European countries participated, with exhibitions, guided tours, online applications, workshops and seminars. The Young Scenographers exhibition was accompanied by 2 other Europe-wide EMEE projects. The so-called Eurobarometer, an interactive game with reinterpreted objects for visitors, and a photo exhibition in which museum curators commented on local museum objects from European perspectives. These 3 presentations were central to the EuroVision Labs. The main task of these labs was to test the theoretical change of perspective concept in various practical contexts. EMEE partners like universities teamed up with their network museums to put the labs into action. The EuroVision Lab in Ljubljana took place in the National Museum of Contemporary History. Its main element was an exhibition developed by young people who do not visit museums very often. They switched roles with the museum experts, were trained in workshops, selected objects, and created an exhibition.
This exhibition that we are opening today and celebrating within the EMEE project is what I always dreamed about how museums should be. It's a place of sharing, it's a place of accepting diversity, and at the same time it's a place where youngers are meeting the elder people and where everyone is free to collaborate within the exhibitions.
I wish museum would be like this room. interactive, interesting, also to young people, not just for old ones. A place where you can touch objects, where you can actually experience the place and objects fully.
I think with this, our exhibition today, museum will become such a place.
Within this participative element which EMEE is working on, people are becoming the active part of the museum work and an active collaborators of what we are sharing, doing, and we are also learning from them.
The Austrian art group Monochrome presented the ideas of EMEE during the Paraflows Festival, an event for digital arts and cultures in Vienna. Monochrome worked furthermore with exhibition design students of the FH Joanneum University in Graz on the exhibition Zeigerpointer. In this exhibition, the visitors were strongly invited to participate and interact.
Put all the things we talked about the last years in the EMEE project here into practice. We try to put all the museum ideas also out of the exhibition rooms, out of the museum. So we have performances in pubs, we have the symposium, we have the concerts. So we try to reach different audiences.
At the center of the EuroVisionLab in Bulgaria was the experimental temporary exhibition The Fragility of Tolerance. It portrayed the Bulgarian rescue of Jews during the Holocaust in its European context. The exhibition also has a mobile version which has successfully visited various museums, government institutions and organizations.
The idea was to show the people the common European history. The EMEE project is a new way to see the objects, to approach them, to see them in new light and to understand them better and to show the public what they couldn't see with only one visit in the museum.
The Bulgarian EuroVisionLab combined the idea of the European contextualization of objects with new approaches to thus far neglected visitor groups.
Concretely, in our case, we worked much with people with hearing loss, also with physically disabled people. We approached them through mediators and involved them into the active work in the museum. For this reason, we prepared a special guided tour, which is called First Time in the Museum. It is meant to play with them, to activate them, to take them interactively take part in the exhibition.
The Portuguese EuroVisionLab focused on the exhibition Europe Through Our Objects. It presented archaeological objects from new European perspectives. The exhibition used innovative methods like smartphone apps and augmented reality. Visitors were encouraged to actively explore the exhibition.
There is no project like this one in our public administration. This is unique. It's very important for us because this is an old museum. This museum was founded in 1893, and with this project we rebuilt the way to communicate with the people, public and non-public, all the visitors. We bring to the museum another form of communication.
The main frame of this exhibition is to engage with the visitors. Visitors are allowed to construct their own visions about the objects. So it's a very interactive exhibition and allows the visitors to be co-producers of knowledge.
The French EuroVisionLab drew attention to its research on strategies to connect with so-called non-visitors. Against this backdrop, it employed artistic projects in a museum setting as a means of changing perspectives. Museums were also invited to test the EMEE ideas and let visitors become active partners. They were encouraged to rediscover their collections by reinterpreting them. Moreover, the French team focused on adolescents with a migration background as a specific target audience.
I chose the balloon with the French team because the balloon is an European object. Without European collaboration, it would not be possible to build a balloon and to fly.
The EMEE team came to the museum because they work about bridging the gap between a museum and the public. And one part of this project is to work about balloon, because we have an exhibition hot air balloon and the first flight in the end of the 18th century. We made a lot of air balloon with pupils, with schools, in our museum or sometime outside.
The University of Augsburg partnered up with 3 museums for the EMEE EuroVisionLab here in Augsburg. We worked together with the Museum for Art and Art History in Dortmund, with the City Museum Markt Oberdorf and the City Museum Kaufbeuren. The City Museum Markt Oberdorf focused strongly on change of perspective 1, on reinterpreting their museum collection and their museum objects alongside Toolkit 1, and they made visible European and trans-regional perspectives in their local museum objects. The City Museum Kaufbeuren put a stronger emphasis on change of perspective 2 and worked with a lot of visitors and changed roles between museum users and visitors by inviting them to co-create a part of their exhibition.
We have the EMEE exhibition, and we will especially show these objects in the European context.
The EMEE team came to us and they asked us if we could do a project together, and my aim was to do an exhibition about migration. Migration plays an important role in Kaufbeuren.
This project changed my perspective to the museums. I think it's very important showing people not only the past, but also to deal with real people and with actual topics.
The Italian Eurovision Lab was composed of a number of different activities like workshops, symposiums, seminars and conferences for the general public, students and museum professionals, organized in cooperation with museums in Rome. One workshop focused on the Via Appia Antica, a symbol of European interaction.
Today we are here on the Appian Way, that we chose as beautiful scenery for our EuroVisionLab initiative because it was the center of our attentions as the Italian partner. We interpreted the Appian Way as a vehicle of encounter among, and seldom clash among, European cultures.
By this project, I've learned that there are a lot of ways to improve the usage of our collections also in Italy. This European project can create the possibilities for young museum professionals like me to meet each other, design new scenographic perspectives. Another instrument that EMEE project tells is using social web as an instrument for building the museum of the future.
The enhanced network of museums, heritage institutions and associations will further the ideas of the EMEE. Its network partners will employ EMEE ideas to keep museums prepared for the future.
The reinterpretation of the work of curators is of utmost importance because now we are facing a globalization, and exhibitions nowadays should explain the diversity of society, and this can be done by objects as well.
The EMEE ideas are very important for a city museum because city museums have to be anchored in the local consciousness, in the local society. They have to seek dialogue with society, and therefore ideas like participation and the museum as a social arena, like EMEE puts it, are very important.
Although the project timeframe ended in October 2016, EMEE will continue to have a lasting influence.
This is a way we can approach objects that are stored in museums, that are stored in archives, and we can make them more vivid, more lively. We can approach them on a very active level. And I think for institutions it would be a wise step within the next years to find the idea of a choreography, of a balance between concepts that appeal to a general public, even a younger one, and on the other hand keep the contemplative traditional style intact.
Despite the fact that the EMEE project will conclude in October 2016, the EMEE ideas will live on. So first, the EMEE study module and the EMEE workshops will be put further into practice in university seminars, in teacher trainings, as well as in museum expert trainings. Also, the EuroVisionLab exhibitions will keep traveling on throughout whole Europe, and a lot of museums from inside and outside the EMEE network have already expressed their interest in working further with the EMEE concept in their daily museum work.